I'm going to start this video off with an esoteric truth that not a lot of people know about, and it comes from astrology. The first thing that I want to mention about self-pity, embarrassment, shame, being insecure about what other people think of you is that this is an imbalance of energy. It's the case that people with a lot of feminine energy, whose dominant natural elements are earth or water, in fact, tend to struggle with self-esteem. And then when I'm talking about astrology, it's always going to be in reference to either the sun or the moon signs, and a little bit of the ascendant or rising, but primarily the personality planets, sun or moon, because those are the ones that directly influence personality and character. The other planets are indirect and secondary and affect other aspects of our lives, right? And this is not a sexist statement, but this is just how masculine and feminine energy work, because one of them is detail-oriented and the other is not. So people who have these energies in their psyche have an innate attention to detail. This is one of the strengths of earth and water. The earth element endows a person with craftsmanship and stubborn dedication. The water element provides empathetic observation. They're detail-oriented in order to be an empath, in order to see what people are going through and help them. So these are feminine energies. But as with all strengths, every strength has its equal and opposite negative trait. So when feminine energy is exaggerated or out of balance, this quality of mind can cause a person's awareness to become very narrow and fixated on minor observations, right? Minor details. This leads to pettiness. The end result is insecurity, overthinking, taking things too seriously, perfectionism, embarrassment, as I said, pettiness, and an overly critical perspective. So my first recommendation is to consider whether or not you have an abundance of feminine energy in your astrology. Particularly your main birth sign and your moon sign, since the lunar sign is your subconsciousness. It's basically who you are on the inside. They say your emotions. If one of your signs is anywhere near Virgo or Taurus or Pisces or Scorpio or other feminine signs, this is probably the reason why your feelings of self-criticism or insecurity or embarrassment are so strong. And it doesn't have to be in that sign, right? If you know how to read some of the charts, it just needs to be near it. You know, even if you're 6 or 8 degrees away, even like 8 degrees away from a sign like Virgo, that can have a really strong influence on you. Or Scorpio or other signs. But even being, so 6 or 8 degrees, that can still have a very strong influence. It doesn't have to be a cusp. This serves as a big reminder for men especially, because a lot of people aren't aware that perfectionism and feeling insecure or embarrassed is actually it's a very feminine quality. So when men discover this, a lot of them might immediately realize that they've been sitting in their feminine too much. And for that reason, that idea can help them snap out of it, so to speak. Because masculine energy doesn't have this kind of imbalance. It's not petty. It doesn't complicate things with details. Masculine energy allows a person to see the bigger picture, overall picture or situation. And it can prioritize through insignificant details in order to handle the meat and potatoes of something. Masculine energy is very independent because people who have it have this innate ability to just be themselves and do things in their own way, have their own ideas without shame or the need for approval. If we take the natural element of fire, for example, like a warrior, people with a lot of fire do and say what they please because they feel that that right to be themselves very strongly. So they generally don't have much problem with other people's opinions. These kinds of people have an inborn inclination to think for themselves and do things their own way, rather than mimic and adopt the behavior of others. So one thing I recommend that everyone do is to learn to make other people's opinions irrelevant. Realize that your job in life is to be you, and that you can't please everyone because it's impossible. If you kept changing yourself constantly to win respect and admiration from people, it's impossible for one thing, and that would contradict your personalities, your ways, and you would be rejecting your own character and beliefs at the same time. You will actually come off as more certain in yourself if you simply shift your attitude by owning yourself and just admitting to all of your flaws and mistakes and not making a big deal out of it. If you own everything about yourself around other people, including your mistakes and imperfections, if you really own it in your attitude and you don't feel any way about it, it tells everyone that you don't give a damn, you're not insecure, and you know your worth. So this shift in attitude can still be effective even when others don't agree with you. And keep in mind that if you're not happy with the way someone views you, you gave some of the wrong impressions and you're thinking to yourself, you think I'm like that? I didn't know I had so many flaws. That's not who I am. That's not what I am. I have to prove something to you. I have to prove something else to you now. Well, you only have yourself to blame for giving the person the wrong impression. You might as well just embrace it if they mistook you. Own the character that they think you are, or dismiss the flaw or criticism and give people a better impression next time. And try not to take your mistake too seriously. Now, if you're struggling with self-esteem and you want to compensate somehow, I will also mention that here, even though compensation is not an ideal way to correct low self-esteem, start off by prioritizing your strengths, by finding the ones that are most important to you. Try not to mind the imperfections and flaws that people point out or the lesser known skills that people don't recognize in you. And you can compromise your self-image a little. You don't need to be proud of many small things. Try to be satisfied with this kind of character. You can choose to compensate with a lot of social status or career status, and that might work for you since a lot of people in society like this. A lot of people yearn to be worshipped, to be renowned. They value this. They value social status. And there are many tools you can take advantage of to enhance your status overnight. Services like SMM Sumo, for example. And of course, however, this is a spiritual channel, so this isn't the wholesome, solution. The inferiority complex still exists in compensation tactics. It's not the authentic way to feel better about yourself, but it can work for some time. A more helpful mindset to have is the courage to be disliked, which is also the title of a book by Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga. At one point in the book, the authors say that you may not be able to change the way other people view you, but you can change the way that you view yourself. And in return, and that's basically the end of the quote, but in return, this can make people understand how you feel about yourself. And in dating arts or social arts, the social arts community, this personal attitude is called a frame. It's called your frame. A frame is a term that includes a lot of things. Your frame holds your unique point of view. It contains your values, your opinions, and your attitude. So everyone has a frame. It's kind of a made-up idea, but it exists because we have opinions and attitudes and language, body language, and so on. People can sense your frame because it expresses itself in the way you dress and the way you walk and the way you talk. So if you're very certain about your everything, including yourself, this means that your frame is very strong. So no matter what people say or think about you or your point of view, you don't second guess yourself or feel the need to change your opinion just to please others. And see, other people can see this, so it looks good, right? It looks like healthy self-esteem, assuredness, independence. Now, here are my 4 reasons why you should stop caring what other people think of you. Reason 1, you're too detail-oriented, you're too perfectionist, too petty, and you take things too seriously. Things that just don't amount to very much, little mistakes or events that only you notice and everyone else forgets about because it's so fleeting and insubstantial. Reason number 2, maybe you're insecure in front of a particular person, but you're dealing with someone who's not a perfectionist like you. Believe it or not, some people are not perfectionists. Someone who's more egalitarian or humanitarian and accepting than you realize. So someone like that isn't overly critical and doesn't have high expectations or standards from people. They're more laid back and forgiving because they understand that no one's perfect. It's easier to relax around someone like this. And reason number 3, which I think is a really good one, I think this is a very simple kind of go-to rule, which is that as long as you're not doing anything wrong per se, nothing too extreme or out of the ordinary, if you have a good idea or what is normal, if you have a good idea of what is normal or common and accepted in the place you live, in your culture, then there is no reason to worry about what people think because you're not doing anything wrong, right? Nothing too extreme. You're not abusing people. You're not criticizing, or you're not yelling, or you're not being extremely angry about something, or you're not being creepy. You're not hurting people. Like obvious things like that. If you're not doing anything like that, then why care, right? So for example, if somebody doesn't like a certain picture of you on Facebook or on a dating site, well, you're not doing anything wrong because it's just a photo of you and you can't do anything about your genetics, so you don't worry about it. And the 4th reason you can stop worrying about what other people think of you is because of what I call the anchor of balance, or the law of balance, or the law of average. And this rule states that the average person has a lot of potential and is doing something important with their life. So we don't have to entertain insecurities like jealousy or criticism. We all have desire. We all want to pursue some kind of career. We all want to become something or do something meaningful with our life. Likewise, the average person is not going to look down on you and be so critical that they perceive you as below average and no good for no reason. If you're dealing with somebody like this, it's probably just one person you know in your circle. So if a strong frame doesn't change shape or form for other people, you should never be in a position where you're embarrassed yourself about something and just are waiting for the other person to change their mind about you. Likewise, you never have to be in the place of uncertainty and asking people what they think of you just to make sure that you have their approval. Because really, this is very needy, approval-seeking, dependent behavior, right? If you're independent, you don't need to know what other people are thinking, right? You don't need to know what they're thinking about you. You don't need to wonder. You don't need to ask. Authentic self-worth is not dependent on other people or circumstances. It's just an internal attitude. And you can't control people's opinions at the end of the day. There's no guarantee what someone actually thinks of you anyway. So even if you try to give them the right impression, you may not. If you're quite young and you've just finished high school and you're starting to live your own life, you're starting to realize the different life skills and things you need to know to maintain living. You were probably encouraged by your parents to keep a backup savings account for emergency if you ever lost your job or your ability to work. And maybe they encouraged you to budget your finances with a spreadsheet. There are a lot of life skills that we need in order to get by safely in life. So with that being said, it's possible to become jealous of people and uncertain in our worth when we find that our life skills are lacking. If we refer to this chart here, this is a collection of life skills and knowledge prioritized from the most basic and essential to the least essential. As we gradually ascend the triangle in the real world, there are more advanced and intricate things we can get ourselves into, but they are more or less optional, like at the top of the triangle. There are 100 different little skills that you can learn that can make you come off as a very on top of it kind of person or a Jason Bourne know-it-all kind of character. But at the end of the day, the only skills and knowledge that are really important are the ones found at the first few levels of the triangle. I'm showing you this because I think for young people who are detail-oriented and perfectionist, it's really easy to notice what other people have and begin to lose that certainty in your frame, in yourself, with those feelings of inferiority and such. When I was growing up, I used to overthink so many things. So I kind of started life near the top of this triangle and worked my way down to the more meat and potatoes essentials. So I learned how to sing and dance and dress well in my teens and early 20s. But I was laid back, and when it came to life skills, I only wanted to know the bare essentials that would get me by. So for a long while, I never budgeted my money precisely. I just managed it with my eyes and head. And I would always confuse my car insurance papers with my registration papers when showing it to the police. And I didn't care to know about all the sneaky things the government does to make money from us, or what restaurant managers secretly do to their employees' paychecks. All of that was basically okay because I was taking care of my life essentials. But eventually I would find myself becoming uncertain about my worth when around people who seemed to just know everything in the realm of life skills. I was the kind of person who would lease a car but have no idea what I was signing, how much the interest rate was, or whether or not the interest would change over time, or if it were a good interest rate at all. So my point is that whatever or whoever you are, you should just own it. There's no rules to follow really when it comes to how to live your life. There's no use in losing your frame and becoming insecure about what other people think unless you're doing really bad things or you're not doing anything with your life and are receiving government support for no reason so you can sit at home all day. This is more masculine for the men out there, and as well for women who just want to be more independent and come off as who want to be independent and also just come off as more certain in themselves. You really just have to own yourself. Don't worry too much about how the government works or legality or the language of money or real estate unless you want to become a lawyer or an entrepreneur or an investor or an agent. You can get a good accountant and let them do your taxes. That's helpful. You don't have to know how everything works in life, is my point. So when you adopt a sturdy frame for yourself, you're going from an am I mentality, which is uncertain and approval seeking, always second guessing and wondering what people think, to an I am mentality, which is self-assured and self-approving. So to keep in mind that you have your own opinions and way of life that I encourage you to keep. You can't get everyone to admire you. You can't look good in front of everyone. It's impossible. Everyone has their own preferences and taste. It's too hard, and you would be very soft in the head and obsessive to try. If you're a laid-back person and you're going through life one step at a time, or maybe you're taking your time figuring out what you want to do with for your career, there's nothing wrong with that. Just own it. What if you're dating someone who's very ambitious and you're just going at your own pace? You have to own it. Stop pleasing people. You're just going to get really insecure by your partner. It's going to trip you out if you let them shake your frame like that, because they want to advance in certain ways and you just want to go one step at a time, or you have your own reasons for taking your time in life. You got to stop pleasing people. Just own it. Right? Are you going to start acting like them so that they don't begin to see you as lazy or directionless? Well, you don't have to necessarily. You don't have to do that. They're not necessarily going to see you like that. When you're comfortable in your own skin and you accept yourself fully, you take on this I am mentality. It's like Popeye. I am what I am. That's me. Take it or leave it. So with this attitude, if you're very self-assured and you're emotionally grounded, even the most harsh criticism can be easily plowed through, especially if your reputation, if you don't take your image and reputation too seriously. The ability to not care what others think of you will endow you with fierce independence.